All right, technical difficulty number one. Already off to a great start. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Hard to believe we're almost here, there, wherever, for 2024. Coming at you from what would normally be our 7 p.m. Eastern time block on a Sunday night. But because it is New Year's Eve, we are doing something a little different tonight because I got to imagine a lot of people are going to be participating in festivities. And since it's been holiday season, I figure it's a good time to take a break. And not that I've had a break during the break, it's been nonstop getting things ready. But at least from the gaming side, to take a break just to take a moment and reflect on some of the things that have happened this year because it has been one crazy year for 2023, and I can say I'm not definitely not sad to see it go. But at the same time, a lot of good things have happened, and I want to take some time to go over some of those tonight. So, because we are -5 GMT, I think we can still officially say Happy New Year, especially since it's New Year's Day somewhere. So, yeah, granted, we're probably not going to be online up until the final hour of midnight in this time zone, but at least for those of you who catch this afterward, definitely Happy New Year to you. So, one thing I don't do very often is get too much into personal stuff, at least on the Rec Room stream. At least I thought I'd give a little bit of a backstory because it is relevant how things got going in this year. And I guess I'm going to say this year in terms of 23 because even though I know we're talking New Year, it's going to be 24 by the time everybody else is watching this. So, as of March of 23, I was still in a very comfortable position in the tech sector. And as things would have it, I was forcibly exited from not only a position on account of um, a company acquisition, but also because I remained with one company a little too long. My skills ended up in a very, very weird state that one set of skills was a little bit ancient and the other skill set was missing. And on account of a saturated market, it made things very difficult. So the way things went down, I had a suspicion that God allowed that to happen for the reason of me finally taking on some other things I've been wanting to do for a long time, and even some things that had already been going on, finally get them in a finished state. So I immediately went to work on putting some backup ideas together. I mean, and that included things as crazy as either doing t shirts, stock resources, art, but one of them was actually streaming. Friends and I had talked about that a little bit over the years, but there was never really any time to invest in it because it would have been more of a casual idea. But one said item ended up sticking. And that idea is one some of you are familiar with, if you're especially if you're watching this, and that is the Rec Room. So I know that some people in recent years have had to reinvent themselves and they have found all kinds of ways to pursue passion projects and relay those online. And it just so happens that I'm finally getting my turn to do that, and it happens that I'm doing it a little late. So it's been a very, very interesting year, and I really went to work to try to put some visuals together and try to leverage one of my passion hobbies, I guess, which would be gaming. And it isn't even something I do as much anymore. But because of my knowledge and my former aspirations to get into game development, and then having a host of hardware that would make it palatable, I figured why not start there. Now, there is an ulterior motive, which I will explain a little bit more in detail. So it's not like I'm just trying to do gaming, but there is a reason behind it. And we did our first stream April 7th, 2023. I'll get more into that in a second, but I do want to give a shout out to Call to Stealth because I see he's joining us over on Twitch. And I know tonight I may not be able to address chat quite so much um, because I've got things a little backwards tonight. Usually I've got, my chat on this side and the gaming on this side, and I've got them flipped around just because I've got some production on the fly elements going on tonight as I go through some slides for you. So, and I also say welcome to Boiling Point Live over on Pilled. Is asking if I'm using Linux. And as far as an OS, not at the moment. So, it is something I would more likely be inclined to do if need be once the death nails are finally in Windows, but have not reached that point yet. So thank you for stopping in. Appreciate it. So to carry on with the rec room, yeah, I mean, I'm crazy and abstract, and I'm trying to put all I can into the creativity for names. I mean, and even as you can see, the backdrop, I've done the work myself for that, other than the stock resources made to help boost it a little bit. But I'll get a little bit more into some of that as well. So basically, from the time of trying some of these ideas, it was a better part of 3 weeks to finally um, get a crash course on what I needed for streaming, and then got going. And I kind of consolidated some of my favorite genres, and we started with Mercenaries on the original Xbox because it's a sandbox game, it's open world, and I figured, hey, we can make this entertaining because in of itself the game is pretty fun. So what did I do? And I'm going to say this in relation to those of you who may be encouraged to start streaming or even questioning it. What does it take to get started? And the answer is not much. Obviously, I was on a very, very limited budget, not knowing what was going to happen over the next few months. And so I was able to get the few other things I needed for streaming within a short period of time and for a very small amount of money. And in my notes I have here, I basically had to get a capture card, I ended up getting a lamp so it had decent lighting because the overhead wasn't all that great, and then a webcam, and that totaled about 120 bucks. Now, as you'll see from our first outing here, it was pretty rough. So I had to, move some things around, try to get a basic semblance of a studio set up. And is obviously a learning process of trying to get some visuals to try to give it like maybe a bit of a digital interface and try to make it look cool. And also learn about things about workflow because I had these cool animations for the game, but I ended up creating more work for myself because every time I wanted to add a new game, we're talking probably a couple days worth of work because of the way the animations render out. But as you can see, even with the basics there, I had my camera facing the opposite direction of the game, so there was a lot of things learned along the way. And as the Hummer in the crater suggests, that was a lot of the learning process over the course of getting things rolling. Uh, but like I said, hey, if I can do this and learn in a short period of time, I'm sure there's a lot of others out there who can do the same thing. And there's many more who are already doing it. They've probably been doing it a little while longer. And eventually we have made some improvements. At some point, I finally splurged and got a decent microphone. And the only other thing I needed was an arm. So really, streaming is a minimal investment. What's going to really go into it is your content, and most of that will be your time. To put things together. Even for this, just to get this together for the New Year's stream, I've spent a good chunk of an afternoon. That's more I will usually do, just because gaming is much easier to get things up and running. But it's not impossible. So that's a sample of from our very first stream. And the next hurdle was, where on earth do you stream to? How do you do it? And for me, I'm like, I had a specific idea in mind. So, granted, I already knew that people were doing political streaming and commentary, and I knew about gaming. And it's not something I was super into in terms of being a consumer. But knowing where my political views were, I had a hunch that it might be a little dangerous to jump into the deep end with going full onto the big platforms. So I worked backwards. I said, I'm going to work on the small ones first, try to build up, and then if needed, I'll do the big ones and go from there. So our very first platform was Odysee, and for the most part, that is still a preferred platform for us because they have a clean interface, and there's certain things you can do to help boost your content, and it's got a very active community over there. Our second stop was Pilled, and Pilled is also a favorite because they have a super active community and have been the most helpful and the most supportive thus far. So, and then in order, we then hopped over to Kick, and obviously I've got a red X, which I'll explain in a second. And then finally, after getting things up and running, well, actually, one other note about Kick, the reason we went with that was because lots of people knew about Kick, apparently. I hadn't heard of it, but as I was starting to pick some brains from people, Kick came up, and I'm like, okay, if it's a competitor, I'll try it. And then eventually we got onto Twitch and YouTube, and I think we did most of that in the better part of a couple weeks. So going from the first platform up until the fifth platform, Wasn't a huge gap in between. It was just a matter of getting the right software set up and a few other things like that. And we also had Rumble. So Rumble was being used almost as a repository because we were not able to stream. But let me explain why we dropped Kick and Rumble. So we have done some visual upgrades, and there was a point in time in which technical performance was starting to be limited because I've got the animated visuals, and then trying to stream to multiple platforms starts taxing the processor. And I'm like, hey, if I got to drop a platform, which one do I pick? Well, the reason for Kick was, despite Kick being super helpful off the start by getting some certain game categories available upon request, their interface was an absolute mess. I mean, it looked much like Twitch minus the features. So there was absolutely no way to find a particular game or user unless they were live or apparently popular enough to be visible in the top spots. That was not us. So even after reaching out to their support, they didn't have stuff available, and some of their features were just plain lacking. Yet the irony is they've had so much money to throw around for mega $1 million contracts to bring people over, and yet they can't put any of that money into features for the little guy to help build up their community. On top of that, most of the people that were hopping in were strictly people trying to take advantage of the affiliate status. So they would ask for a follow back, which I can understand that. But it was reaching the point where the few people that would come along were not interested in the content, even if they did find it. So unfortunately, at the point in time when we were doing upgrades, Kick was not viable. And Rumble is just a hot mess because, one, their search functionality doesn't even work. And two, they will not let you stream without having paid subscribers. Well, how do you get paid subscribers if nobody can find you? And then you have to pay or you have to pay to stream. And it's kind of like, that's not helping the little guy who is trying to create a income source, and they want to take from you in the process of you just getting that started. So unfortunately, those we dropped, but it's not like hey, if for some reason we tick somebody off and have to go back, we might. But at the same time, for performance reasons, we've been very happy with our Odysee and our Pilled families, and there's been a lot of people that have come along on Twitch that we have been helpful in sticking it out with us, and then even YouTube, we've had some random appearances here and there. So it doesn't create a lot of extra work to stream to Twitch and YouTube, so we're still gonna stick with those and just keep working on growing. So before I get into any crazy particulars, so here's a big mess of some of the iterations we've gone through over the years. So on the left is most of the layouts we've had on the stream, so you can see that I kind of started out with a basic format, added some more visuals, and then started getting away from like the diamond plate and caution stripes, and finally started building up the new Hyperstream format. I didn't think to mention that. So yeah, this is how we've gone from Hyperstream 1 to Hyperstream 2. And when I say Hyperstream, it's mostly just my name for the fact that we're streaming to multiple platforms. So even though we have the Rec Room is essentially just a particular type of programming, but Hyperstream is just my setup for having everything to get broadcast out. And so we've been calling it Hyperstream 2.0 because we went from our original format and then not so gradually, but eventually got to where we are now with the cool Rec Room format with both the Rec REC format and the WRECK format. So again, yes, that was intentional to leverage that name. And of course, that even affected the loading screens, trying to get something basic, get some audio, and then hopefully even make those enjoyable while people are waiting to check the show out. So as I kind of mentioned, I had to reduce some of the videos and other things because the processing was an issue, and that's why we ended up dropping Kick. So I mean, even some of that's kind of visible in the samples where we had some of the bars and too many other things going on. So one other thing that I ended up switching out was my over talking in front of every stream to try to keep everybody updated. And I'm sure you notice as you're watching now, the promo bar down at the bottom was a huge thing because, people want the content. They don't necessarily want to get a bunch of advertisements or necessarily a bunch of updates all the time. So I was able to reduce a lot of that and put it down the promo bar. And that's what we've been working off as far as a format for the last few months now. It's been pretty good. But unfortunately, me talking too much, as this video alone will indicate, I've kind of gone back to like just doing some recaps of what the game content is we're doing or my status on projects. But otherwise, it's helped reduce a lot of the stuff we want to do to help out other streams who have, you know, either through people we know or also who have been friends of the stream, or if we just need to provide the links for stuff going on. So that's it. Oh, and one other thing is, as far as our upgrades go, we also even switched lighting from the original format. Somebody donated one of those tripod lights with a diffuser, so even that was a nice little thing that we were able to do to help improve quality along the way. So what else we got here? So hard to believe we have touched on at least 8 games since April. When we got started, we went with Mercenaries, and then within, you know, a short period of time, I added MechWarrior 5, but we've completed a total of 5 games so far, with a little bit of a question mark, because the intent with Mercenaries was to be as complete as possible. That didn't quite happen after having some repeat content there for a while, but we went through Mercenaries, Ninja Gaiden, Shadow Tactics, which is an Edo period samurai ninja strategy game, and then we went through XCOM, which is an alien strategy game, and of course the crowd favorite of Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. A lot of people have jumped into our streams for that one, which has been pretty fun. But our 2 official outing games have been Mercenaries and Crackdown. So we're now working on the second one, which is Crackdown on the Xbox 360. That's normally in this time block on Sunday nights. And during the week, we've been working on Alpha Protocol, which is a spy role-playing game, which is very fun. It's short, but it's got some very quick witty dialogue to it, and that's been pretty enjoyable. But the crazy thing is, MechWarrior is the one game we started almost back in the beginning, and it's still ongoing with almost no end in sight. And we recently just finished one of the DLC packages for it, so who knows how long that'll be going, but we're going to keep running as long as there's content for it, whether it's by default or new stuff added. And I did the total. I think we're looking at 147 episodes we've knocked out. Now, they'll do that, you know, 6 nights a week for a while, but right now we're on a 3-night-a-week schedule. And there may be a couple asterisks. That's why I put a star next to a couple of those, because I think both Mercenaries and MechWarrior, silly me, started as episode 0 for field tests, but yeah, some of those were pretty rough, and we're glad that quality is in a much better situation now than it was. Let's see what else I got here. So, and then the plus signs are really just because those are the ones that are running right now. But yeah, it's just wild. So not counting the episodes we borked, hard to believe we're almost on the verge of 150 episodes. So, not to make this all about me talking the whole time, there have been so many funny moments as we've done the Rec Room, and as you can imagine, so let's say even if each stream was about 2 hours apiece, we're talking 300 hours worth of content for me to go through. I've tried to index some of that, catalog some of that, but I wanted to focus at least on our official outing games. And the thing is, Mercenaries quality is so different, I didn't want to quite go back to that. So what I've done, at least, I've captured a couple highlights for you from Crackdown. Now, they're a few minutes long, you know, at least a couple of them are. But the first one is from our very first episode. Now, I don't get too expressive. Obviously, it cracks me up sometimes when the things I see. But I usually try to play things really cool because I don't think getting, hyper angry is all that professional. But I had my first meltdown during our first episode of Crackdown, and it's to say that the narrator was pulling some Bugs Bunny kind of stuff on me as if trolling me. I'll let that clip speak for itself. So I was in the process of taking down a thug, and then the dialogue that follows is to me was pretty amusing. So this gives you a little flavor of one of the situations we had. So I'll play that, and then I'll come back to some of the other stuff here in a sec. Oh, there she is. Oh, clunk. Oh, I'm almost out of shotgun rounds. Here. So you just knock her down, kick some more, kick. Bludgeoned to death with a boot.
New agency intel, agent.
Oh, here we go.
With Violetta out of the frame, it's not such a pretty picture for Los Muertos. Recruitment is at an all-time low. With less new blood on the streets, the civilians are regaining their confidence. The agency is pleased with your progress.
So...
Excellent work, Agent. Now explore the city and track down the other key gang members. Eliminate them in any way you see fit.
Ooh.
I'll keep you updated if peacekeepers secure additional intelligence, but don't count on that. It's up to you to search the city to find the key gang locations.
So, a couple points. So here now,
the vicinity of an area
shut up.
dominated by a key gang member, all relevant available agency intel will automatically download to your personal network, and a marker will be placed on your HUD.
Yep. So
you're near an agency supply point that's in enemy hands, Agent.
This guy.
Look out for the orange beam of light visible only through your HUD.
So
you might want to bulk up some more before trying to handle something as heavy as that.
I'm gonna have to pause.
Revised odds against the.
I can only get this guy to shut up by pausing. So, yeah, that was something else. So it, like, literally everything I would say, and then it was almost as if the game's programming wanted to keep jumping on me. It would only do it after I'd start talking, of course. The game was preloaded with those quotes based on the context, but for some reason that early in the game, they were all just, like, jumbled together, even though they weren't fully relevant. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty amusing. But the reason we went with Crackdown is because it's just a free-form game. All the funny stuff you can do, climbing buildings, shooting criminals, and hijacking all kinds of stuff. One of the game's features is that for driving, there's actually stunt markers. And so I went through this process to try to get one of the stunt markers, and it was pretty silly. So at this point, what I'm going to do, I will show you this one. That's also a few minutes, but it's just the pure shenanigans of trying to get a stunt marker close to the ground and try to get a vehicle through it. May still need something else to get the ups, though, so I don't know how we're going to do that.
The circles of light that appear to be floating in the sky are stunt markers projected onto your HUD for your convenience.
Can these be picked up? Probably not.
Driving vehicles through stunt markers will increase your driving skills.
Let's get a little goofy here. Maybe we can blow ourselves up through the stunt marker. Build our own ramp. We're gonna build a ramp out of a sawhorse. Warning you kids, don't try this at home. This is not what you do. Alright, it's all pointed the right way. This can't go wrong, right? Alright, good. We can't pick up light vehicles. Alright, here we go.
Get over to Funland
Not
and take
quite.
out those remaining street soldiers, Agent. It's all you need to do to clean up this district for good.
So we just flatten those. What's this gonna do for us? We got some Bugs Bunny stuff going on here. Alright, okay, race marker is a bit of a problem at the moment until we get the other vehicle. I mean, this one's low enough if you're doing co-op, you can throw somebody through it, but we don't quite have that luxury of them. We can't hit these fast enough to make them blow up, can we? I wonder. Actually, let's try this. Is there a way to get explosives to work with high enough speed? Then we can drive. Yes! At the cost of the car, though. Alright.
There's nothing like a good fire to cleanse the soul.
Oh, wow. That's philosophical there, Dispatch. Okay, so what we need... We need a well-placed obstacle in front of our exploding arm or exploding objects. So this is what you call, like, it's what the kids are doing in Minecraft, right? All this fun stuff, putting all things together. Yep, walk it up there. Walk it up there. Flaming hoop of death. You can do better than that there, Agent. There you go. That one's no good. This one's still safe. Maybe it was. That was still live ordnance. There we go. Alright. Once more. If I didn't have another card to pick from, this would be a complete waste of time. Alright. I've been waiting for. Got it! Nailed it!
I do not fail!
Oh, that was totally worth it. Alright, time for a new vehicle. So, I still enjoy some of that stuff. So yeah, it's pretty silly. So I was in the chat here for a little bit, and just in case anybody's concerned, the replays are a little grainy because just in case anybody's interested in the useless knowledge of streaming. So only certain platforms do full HD, or at least even the downloads that are available may come out at 720p or something similar. So what I had to do, I had to take the replays, and then I'm just obviously clipping them and putting them in here. So they're going to be a little bit different quality than everything else going right now. So at least in case anybody was curious about that. So the last clip I have for you is much shorter, and like with the Hummer sitting in the missile crater, this one's kind of a little bit more analogous to the bumpy road that we've gone through for streaming. So again, another Crackdown one, and this came from the episode we just did last week. So rather than do story progress for our Christmas Eve stream, we just did racing. I don't want to ruin the whole thing, but if you're curious, it's just a goofy stream because Crackdown will let you get out of the vehicle, and you can essentially get your vehicle blown up, lost off a cliff, and you don't reset. So I ended up getting a ramp truck, and this kind of says it all here as far as the nature of how we do things. It's not the most exciting race at this point, but it's one that can be finished. Or not. Clearance 2 feet. So yeah, best laid plans go to waste. No, things don't always go as expected. So like I said, I have fun with that. So I hope that at least gives a little snapshot, because not everybody, is into gaming. And I've tried to do my best to make sure this is appealing to everybody. And again, games can be long and drawn out, and even different genres and different titles appeal to everybody differently. So I've tried to take an approach of make it entertaining no matter what. So that way, if it's serialized content, you can, pick up where you left off. And, at least I'll do my best to, bring the average individual up to speed on what's going on and why. And, that was just something silly that happened during one of the races. So now for the measuring stick that most people use when it comes to streaming, and that would be, of course, followers. And, this is the bread and butter. This is where the thank you goes out to all of you who've watched and participated over the last year. And I want to make clear that, because I've, done some recaps on how the follower thing is going. And I think I've stuck my foot in my mouth a couple times because this has nothing to do with who is or is not supporting, but as much as platforms, because things are handled differently. As I've already expressed, Odysee and Pilled have been very active, while some of the larger platforms, there's less people that have jumped in. But that's not because of you, the audience. That's because of algorithms and technology and way those platforms make content accessible. But this is one of the things I wanted to touch on because this is kind of the metric of are we succeeding or not at this? Are you in the audience finding this enjoyable? And at least for me, like I've never been a good individual to leverage social media, and even with doing the rec room, I'm not doing that at all for the most part. And the last social media platform I was on, it probably was over a couple years to barely reach the point we're at now with the rec room. But the key difference was that was mostly political antics or maybe some art pieces. And I think the big difference is content. You know, as I did that, you know, not a crash course like officially, but as I was trying to figure out some do's and don'ts for streaming, one of the key things is that content is king. And you have to put your emphasis on content. And I think just by doing this, there is more for our content now than things I've done in the past for social media. So, just as a quick rundown here, we've got 18 over on Odysee, and that's been a huge increase over the last few weeks. Ever since Thanksgiving, we've had more opportunity to be in the trending section, and that is super helpful. And you know, many thanks go out for those of you who have, you know, hit the like buttons and watched it, you know, in the replay and things like that. And of course, Pilled is crushing it. I mean, we're at 86, and I think we've already clipped 87 by the time of streaming this. So again, you know, that's why I can't thank Pilled enough for their community being so active. Then to right that is Twitch, and we're at 14 there. And Twitch is interesting because it's the most iconic name, and I think maybe there's a handful of people that I know in real life, and there's also many of you who've come along, and it's, you know, I think even Twitch, we had people at least find us based on the games we were doing pretty early, so that says a lot for at least Twitch's algorithm or their features working. And then there's YouTube, which I give a hard time for because YouTube is the household name brand video platform, and yet we're at 3 subscribers. Now, again, I know a couple of those are people I know, and it is appreciated that they're joining us, but how is it for being such a large platform that nobody is finding us? And so that's why I'm trying to distinguish that. I'm pointing the finger at the technical issues with the platform and not our audience. So that's where I want to make sure I'm clear on that. And one of the things I've learned, especially in recent months, you know, my understanding was that most of the, I'll use the word benefit, tends to come from, you know, people live streaming. But Odysee has showcased recently that it's not just about the live stream alone, because what happened with my work situation in the sense that even though I am not back in my field, I am doing something supplemental in the short term, and that has put me at an adverse schedule to streaming when I was during the summer. And because of that, we're at a later time block. And if a lot of people are in bed, or unless they're in a different time zone, they're not finding us. But as Odysee has indicated, the views have still continued to go up. And that tells me that many of you out there are watching the replay. And so even though I've not been able to interact with some of you during the live stream, if there's enough clicks on something, that tells me you're still watching it and hopefully enjoying it enough because it's happening repetitively. Because for a while there, Odysee was getting 1 or 2 views. Now, if our follower count was low, that's understandable. And it's easy to make the assumption that if there's only a couple, that could have been me clicking on it by accident while I'm doing an edit or something. But we have actually hit the point where we've now had a couple videos over on Odysee hit double digits. So I posted a couple of those there. So the fact we hit 10, that's not an accident. And that's thanks to you guys for still hanging out with us. And that means if you're still clicking on it, you're still enjoying it. And I appreciate that. And it says a lot. So that means even if we can't catch up with you in real time and you're still enjoying it after the fact, that's a win. And so that's encouraging and motivation to keep going and doing what we're doing. So totally a learning experience, and definitely some things learned. And, you know, one of the other deficits, like I said about social media, I'm not a marketing guru. I am not out there trying to promote this on every platform. I'd rather people find us because they're interested, not because I have to go out there and start arm twisting and start using all kinds of search engine optimization features. And the way some things work on some platforms is one of the options is stream one of the games that are most popular. We're not doing that. So not only do we not have social media going for us, we don't have the most popular game going for us. Also, I am not an attractive lady with low moral standards putting on a show. So that's also something you don't have going here. So it is going to be a little bit more of an uphill battle. But like I said, this stuff, even though it is a measuring stick, it's easy to lose sight that, hey, I know you out there are real people, so I can only shake my fist at the bots if there are any, which I don't think there are at this point in time, because some people will pad their follower count. But no, I want to say thank you to all of you who have hung out with us over the year. So one of the other key things in relation to support. So extra huge shout out to Maven and yes by proxy you as well, Jolly Roger. That the Pilled family has done so much to help this grow. I mean, there's an active community and they help share out the show. Not to mention that Pilled has been the leading platform in terms of their gold pill monetary system, and also it's not to be forgotten. And I don't say this enough on the stream. Thank you to all the moderators, and I will also say specifically Wild Irish Rose, because even when I'm streaming late nights, I know there are some people that will share out the show. And again, I miss people during the live stream, but because we're at a late hour. But I still think that is the reason why Pilled is actually our top platform right now, is because of all the hard work that everybody puts in over there, and it is greatly appreciated. It does not go unnoticed, but unfortunately, I don't get it vocalized often enough. So that's pretty much the bulk of what I have to say about the Rec Room. But as I said, there was kind of an ulterior motive, and I'm going to start going into some personal things here, because I didn't just turn into a creative individual just because of these things going on. I had some things I could start working on, but the thing is, none of them are in a position that helps me avoid having to do a hamster wheel. So, one of the projects I started working on about 10 years ago has finally started to work its way into the public domain. And just this beginning of 23, we had a Kickstarter for it, and it was completed and got its first trailer released. And I'm going to at least talk about that here for a second, and that is Aladdin 3477. So this is an independent sci-fi franchise that is from the mind of Matt Bush, and we spent 5 years filming for this, a few more years editing, and then finally he was ready to go forward with it, did a Kickstarter campaign, and went 6x times the required amount for the Kickstarter. And because of backing it, some of these swag packages or the goodie boxes have been going out, and I've done a couple of unboxing videos for those. So I'm still foreign to the whole unboxing phenomenon. So this is not something I was used to doing, but I figure if it's the trendy thing, I'll do it. Now, this is not part of the Rec Room, but it was more good practice for me to do certain things along the way. And as you can even see between the first and second video, one was pretty early with the Rec Room, and then the second one totally started to make some changes. So I've been pretty happy with that. And if you are curious about any of the behind the scenes stuff, I break down some of the movie experience in the first unboxing video, which is available on pretty much, well, not all of our platforms, but it is on Odysee and YouTube, the ones that allow us to do lengthy archive video format. So it has been a huge experience, and creatively one of the most, or I guess one of the biggest privileges of my creative life, to actually be attached to a project, even if it's an independent one, because there's so many cool things that happen. And what the status with it is, I think there's still some things going on with working out a distribution deal. So again, the hope was to try have it in 23, but we are on the verge of seeing that take some strides forward. So that's pretty exciting. And that's one of the reasons that I have it in the promo bar, because it's going to be a big project, and because I'm personally attached to it, obviously I've got some motivation. So I have said in the past, none of the promotional stuff we have on the Rec Room or any of the other streams has to do with any kind of paid format, as much as it is to return the favor for other things that people have done for me or for the show, etc. So on the creative side, one of the other backup ideas that actually did make it out of the gate, but not with the same speed of the Rec Room, is a project I started called Threadjacks. And essentially that's me taking a 3D medium and trying to make pop culture characters out of it, because for about 10 plus years now, I've been working with teaching myself 3D and animation, because that's something I might need for the other project I'm about to mention. But at the same time, it's hard for me to go very long without doing some visual stuff. And finally, a few years ago, I discovered the beauty of licensed resources. So rather than trying to work with other stuff, which I couldn't leverage, I was able to start building up from scratch other icons that people may or may not be familiar with. So most of my choices are pretty obscure, but I was pretty happy with the overall amount that I got done this last year because I had intended to do one a month, but with learning everything for the rec room and other pursuits, it's like it's so time consuming. But at least I was able to do one across different genres. So I've got represented cartoon, anime, comic, and fighting game and sci-fi game. So this is not something that was a huge monetary driver, but it was something that pushed me across, another line to say, okay, well, if I'm going to treat this as a finished product, let's just get it done. So I was able to get a few done right away, and then over time, I was able to get a few more done by the end of the year. And these things are time consuming because the leftmost one that I have, which I'm sure is probably the most iconic in terms of a cartoon figure, especially with turtles being popular in recent years. I had started that one 2 or 3 years ago, and then even to finish it and get it wrapped up was still took maybe a few days or a couple weeks more worth of work. Some of these are just very, very time consuming, and but at least it's something for me to showcase. Another way to promote something else that's not just exclusively video game related. So, but anyway, I guess the reason I brought it up tonight was because I did manage to get 8 done in 2023, so that was a big deal. All right, and the last one, the big Kahuna. So, for anybody that's watched the stream knows I promote the Firewall Protocol saga. So, this is a big sci-fi martial arts epic saga that I've been working on for about half my life. And this was something I started roughly in college as a writing project with the end goal to originally turn it into video games and anime, or at least films. That has been reduced to at least turning them into animated films, but there's 4 books involved, and I've only gotten 2 of them finished, but I'm working on getting the first one just wrapped up because I hadn't been touched in so long, and it's the lights at the end of the tunnel for the first time in a very, very long time. And so this was another thing I started to pursue full force once the whole hamster wheel shenanigans went down. So the reason why 2023 has been significant is because I finally went to a crowdfunding methodology versus something that had been sitting in shadows for years. So I have been doling out audio content of the portions that are complete since roughly almost the same time as the rec room, and I've been doing the recording myself and doing editing, and so it's killing 2 birds with one stone. It's helping me get the main project finished, but also getting audio content to you guys because we do live in a time where people are not as crazy about reading, yet they still love the big epic franchises, but those things don't build themselves. So this has been a big challenge, but at the same time it's been worth it, and we're slowly building up. And I have to say thank you to all who have helped contribute so far, because not only it's less about the monetary element as much as it is having people come along and extend belief that they believe in what you're doing and willing to lend their support. So the benchmarks for the year, the fact that I managed to get 3 chapters done over the course of 8 months, and on top of that, I've had at least 5 people come along and support actively. And of course, I'm not going to mention anybody by name because they may not know I'm going to do this, but it is important to me because these people deserve a lot of respect for extending their support, including one of which who's been on the stream tonight, and he didn't know I was going to do this. But Call to Stealth is one of our active backers, and he has also been participant in the rec room. And then others include CS, JP4, Helix, Alabama Traveler, Matt Bush, and a couple others that I'm just putting initials down for, because this also includes other people who have helped do editing for me, even in a loose casual format. Of course, the only person I'm mentioning by name is Matt Bush because he's already a public figure, so I don't have an alias for him. So all of the people above have been super helpful and appreciated. And the more that want to join that, the merrier, because there's lots of cool stuff to come. Not to mention just the book audio stuff, but the visuals as I get them done. And it's a lot of work, but man, as long as the work gets done, I'm enjoying it. But sometimes it's sure a time crunch. And I can't say enough in terms of appreciation for those who have helped out this year. Um, and what do I have left here? So, oh yeah, and so one thought on that was, so the Firewall Protocol saga is the reason why the Rec Room exists, in the sense that it is a bridge to go between the kind of content that people enjoy and the kind of content I'm working on. So that's why the Rec Room itself is not necessarily an economic driver compared to the Firewall Protocol saga, but they kind of go hand in hand. So I appreciate that people are, participating in either side of that. I'm enjoying it, and I hope you are too. So what's next? Where are we going from here? What's going on in 2024? Well, you can expect, as mentioned, there's going to be plenty more chapters for the Firewall Protocol saga. And as you can see, we're not even close to done with Mech Warrior, and we still got Alpha Protocol and Crackdown going on. But it's highly likely that Crackdown will be wrapping up here, next maybe few weeks or so. But yeah, I've got a whole library of content with games, and anticipate getting more into those. But here's one of the exciting things. So now that I've had some time to keep the Rec Room rolling and get some practice, there was an idea that started long before the Rec Room, and that was something called Last Land Standing, and that involves a little bit more on the multiplayer side. And we're going to be doing our first episode of that tomorrow, January 1st, 2024, and I'll have some special guests to introduce to you for that. And then, of course, I'll have more pieces for Threadjacks as I work on them. And I've also got some initials there, which I'm going to keep as code words for the time being because, um, given the requirements to get some things started up and not knowing when they're going to start, I'm going to keep those kind of close to the vest at the moment. But I have hinted at that I want to do a little bit more of a creative stream at some point, and I also would like to do some other game genres and some other things. But stay tuned because I think 2024 can be exciting if we keep this thing going. I have no idea how slow, how fast, how much content, but I just couldn't make it into the new year without telling all of you how much I appreciate it because it has been, in one sense, it's been a massive workload, but on the other, it has been very satisfying and very fulfilling to be able to exercise some of the creative things that I enjoy doing. It's just a matter of reclaiming the time needed in order to execute them fully. So that's why I'm so hoping in 24 that if this continues to grow, that hopefully more and more I'll be able to reclaim some of that time back. And that's kind of the whole reason behind talking about some of these things. But yeah, this is all you guys. So it's highly appreciated. Looking forward to 2024. And if you caught this live, fantastic. Glad to have it because I know we had a couple visitors from Twitch and Pilled. But if you even watch on the replay, you are appreciated too. And in the meantime, have a fantastic New Year. I hope you have a good one, even if it's New Year's Eve into New Year's Day or even the beginning of your year. Hey, I hope all of your 2024 is awesome. But meanwhile, we will see you soon. Have a good one.